Disney's Tarzan. This movie is one of the best metaphors for cultural acceptance and on inherited prejudice. Unfortunately, it's also one of Disney's most forgotten movies. I mean, think about it. There were gorillas, Tarzan, some swinging in trees, oh, and the English trio. For most of us, that's about all we really remember from the movie. And honestly, you're not really to blame. I mean, it was released pretty much right in the middle of the Disney Golden Era, starting in 1989 with The Little Mermaid and ending in 2002 with Lilo and Stitch. This period, this 13-year period, saw Disney release 12 of its most recognizable films. Now, with all these great films, Tarzan was just a little bit overshadowed. And so for those of you who have kind of forgotten it, here's a better summary of the story. In the movie, we see a human family who's on this ship, and the ship, something happens to it. We don't really get context, but we see a human family fleeing to what we later learn is the coast of Africa. Then, Phil Collins music, right? We see a gorilla family who just had their first kid, right? So there's this family with a child, and there's a gorilla family with a child. Well, then we watch as the leopard named Sabor kills both the gorilla child and the human parents. Then Kala, the gorilla mother, hears Tarzan off in the distance, and she goes off and finds him, and she brings him back to the gorilla den, introduces the new child to Kerchak and the rest of the gorillas, and she names him Tarzan.
I'm gonna call him Tarzan.
So we fast forward the movie a little bit, and now we're watching as a child Tarzan is trying to make friends with Turk and the rest of the young gorillas, right? We see them dare Tarzan to jump down and take a hair from the terrifying elephants. So Tarzan does it, but in the process he also gets the village trampled, and we can kind of see how the other gorillas react to Tarzan being Tarzan. After that, there's this kind of heartfelt moment between Tarzan and his mom Kala, where he realizes that they both have heartbeats. She puts his head on her chest, and then she puts her head on his chest to hear that they both have heartbeats and that Tarzan doesn't look so different after all. Then, due to some more Disney singing growth hormone, Phil Collins makes Tarzan turn into a full adult. But we still see that Tarzan isn't really accepted by all of his gorilla friends. So Tarzan isn't fully accepted by his gorilla friends. That is, until the giant cat or the leopard Sabor comes to attack the gorillas. Now, remember, this is the same leopard who killed Tarzan's parents and Kerchak and Kala's child at the beginning of the movie. So when Sabor jumps out, Kerchak goes to fight it, but ultimately Tarzan is the one who kills it. And he lifts up the cat, lifts up Sabor, and offers it to the gorillas. And they finally do accept him. All of them except for Kerchak. This is the point in the movie where a lot of things happen really fast. So right as Kerchak doesn't accept Tarzan, there's a bang off in the distance, and we find out that there are people here. So Tarzan goes to explore them, and we get the cute little scene where Jane draws a picture of a monkey. The monkey wants the picture back. Jane doesn't give it to him. The monkeys start attacking Jane, and Tarzan has to go save her, right? What's really interesting that we see here, though, is when Tarzan saves Jane, he realizes, puts his hand up to hers, she's human, just like me. He doesn't know what a human is, but he realizes that she is the same sort of gorilla as him, right? And then he figures out that they both have heartbeats, and they're not really that different at all. So then, after that original scene, the scene with the gorillas trashing the camp, all that sort of stuff, we get back to Jane telling her father and Clayton about Tarzan. And then, boom, Tarzan shows up. And the humans don't treat Tarzan like some strange animal that should be captivated or anything. They look at him and are in awe, and they teach him. They try and learn from him, and they try and teach him as well. So we get the funny little scenes of Tarzan riding a bike are trying to dance with Jane, but ultimately we're seeing how Professor Porter and Jane go about meeting Tarzan. We also see how Clayton chooses to go about meeting Tarzan. Clayton is there specifically with the only reason of making money off of the gorillas that they're supposed to find there in Africa. Now, Clayton sees Tarzan as a tool, a way for him to make money. And so, because of that, during this whole song, we never really see Clayton treat Tarzan in that great of a manner. Eventually, through just the littlest bit of manipulation, Clayton is able to convince Tarzan to bring the group to where the gorillas actually are. Now, in order for Tarzan to do this, he tried to distract Kerchak. Didn't really go well, so Kerchak finds Tarzan and all the rest of the humans with the gorillas, gets really mad. All of the humans leave, but now the people know where the gorillas are. So, from that, we see Tarzan decide to go back to England with the group, with the expedition, with Jane, because he's in love with Jane. It's not the point. That love story isn't important here. What is important is once he gets on the ship, Clayton turns on them. Again, Disney villain turning on his friends. Not the point. What is the point is we finally see Clayton's true colors and that he was manipulating Tarzan and that all he really wanted was the gorillas for him to entrap them, put them in cages, bring them back to zoos and sell them off. All right, so now I'm gonna pull you aside. We're gonna stop you from the story, cut you off on a cliffhanger. I know, I'm sorry, you don't get to know how the story ends, whatever. You'll know in a second, don't worry about it. Right now, conversation, you, me, we're gonna talk about it, okay? So far in the story, we have seen a love story and a da-da-da-da-da-da, right? What is really important though, is Tarzan has met a bunch of different people, right? And a bunch of different people have reacted to a human in a gorilla civilization throughout this movie, right? We'll start with Kerchak, Tarzan's dad, who is super, super apprehensive to a human living amongst gorillas. He's scared, he doesn't know what's gonna happen, right? We have Turk, who is the same way, but he doesn't really even know why he is afraid of Tarzan or apprehensive to him. He just knows that his parents are, so he should be too, and he doesn't want to be Tarzan's friend, right? Then we look at the English trio, right? There's Clayton, who looks at Tarzan and right away goes, that guy can get me to gorillas. That guy can make me money. So how do I use this guy to make me money, right? He looks at Tarzan as a tool to make him more money. Then there's Jane and Professor Porter. When they meet Tarzan, they're enthralled. They love it. They think he's the coolest thing ever, and they're curious, right? They want to learn. Not only to learn, but they want to teach Tarzan their culture, right? They want to share their cultures with Tarzan so that they can both learn and so that they can both appreciate each other for what they offer. So knowing that, now we're going to snap back to the story and we're going to see how it ends. So anyway, Tarzan breaks out of the cage that Clayton puts him in, and he goes back to his family because he knows the gorillas are in trouble, and he starts freeing them from the cages that Clayton had been putting them in, right? Then we see Kerchak go on the offensive. We see Clayton decide, that gorilla's mine, I'm gonna stuff him, whatever. Clayton shoots at Kerchak, and Tarzan goes to save his dad, right? Then we get this scene of Tarzan and Clayton in a tree. Clayton's whipping vines around, he's hatching them, whatever. Tarzan's throwing vines at Clayton. They're wrapping around his arms, wrapping around his ankles, and then one wraps around his neck. And Clayton's just hacking vines, and eventually he falls, but one is stuck around his neck, and he dies. Tarzan then goes back to Kerchak to talk to him, to see him, and we get this heartfelt little moment between Tarzan and Kerchak.
Tarzan. Kerchak, forgive me. No. Forgive me for not understanding that you have always been one of us. Our family will look to you now. No, Kerchak. Take care of them. My son.
So Kerchak finally accepts Tarzan and apologizes. In his death, he is finally accepting of Tarzan and the man who Tarzan is, right? Then, from there, things go back to pretty much normal. Tarzan has to say goodbye to his friends from England because they're going back, and Tarzan has decided to stay in Africa with his family. That is until Jane and Professor Porter decide why not they stay in Africa too, and then we get this fun little scene to end the movie where Tarzan and Jane are swinging through trees together, and they are fully culturally assimilated, and that is the end of the movie. All right, I'm back. We're gonna talk again. Now we know how the movie ends, right? I talked to you, I told you, hey, Turk sees Tarzan, he's afraid, but he doesn't really know why he's afraid, right? We learned throughout the movie that Tarzan isn't that bad. And by the end of the movie, Turk is best friends with not only Tarzan, but an elephant too, which neither of those look anything like a gorilla, but they're not bad. They're just foreign. You just don't know who or what they are. Then we see Kerchak, who was apprehensive to Tarzan the whole time, and it took his death to finally be accepting of Tarzan and the rest of the English people. Clayton, who was using Tarzan this whole time, dies. One of the most horrific Disney deaths ever. It might just be the worst one. Now, the Porters, Jane and Mr. Q Porter, become effectively gorillas because of their curiosity and because of their openness to the culture. They are fully accepted into this society, into gorilla culture, and they start swinging in trees and doing all the fun stuff. So, Tarzan's a great movie. It's not a perfect movie. There's a lot wrong with it, right? Like, it's set in Africa, but there are no African people. But come on, Disney. Jane's waist is about this big in one of the scenes, and it doesn't really do justice to talking about the problems of imperialism that were shown. Like, Clayton is clearly an imperialist, but it's not really ever directly stated. That's never really directly the conflict, or there's no real discussion about it, right? There's a lot better discussions in movies like Atlantis or The Road to El Dorado, right? That is not really the point of Tarzan, though. And I think Tarzan is really about accepting other cultures, and in that respect, it does a really, really good job. This movie does a lot when talking about cultural acceptance, whether that is inherited stereotyping, like Turk shows at the beginning of the movie, or scapegoating, where the gorillas tend to blame all of their problems on Tarzan just because he sort of looks different. And then it lays out a roadmap on how we're supposed to go about meeting and learning from new cultures. We're not using another person or another culture is the wrong way to do it, right? We're supposed to approach with a mutual curiosity, with a wanting to learn and a wanting to teach, right? One culture isn't better than the other, but we can both learn from each other, right? It does